basically treat them as depositions. And we have series, sometimes 29, sometimes 53, as much as 89. We have single sentences. They're statements of fact preceded by the words admit or deny. And all of those statements of fact fall in essentially two categories. This is what the government is doing, and this is what the Constitution requires or prohibits. And so that's admit or deny this fact, and we can prove that fact. We have the evidence. Admit or deny this, or admit or deny. We're asking them to admit or deny that these are the facts, what the Constitution requires and what you're doing. In every one of these, then, we have those statements of fact preceded by the words admit or deny. And so after that hearing, I was so outraged that we prepared a petition for redress regarding the Iraq resolution. And while we were at it, we did three more. We prepared one, again, with the assistance of constitutional scholars. Edwin Vieira and Walker Todd assisted us in preparing the one on the Federal Reserve. Walker Todd was, at one time, the director of research for the New York Federal Reserve. So he knew a little bit about the constitutionality of the Federal Reserve. We prepared another one on the USA Patriot Act and another one on the direct unapportioned tax, the unconstitutionality of the direct unapportioned tax on labor. And we served every one of those four petitions on every single member of Congress on November 8th, and the President. And we said in each of them that there will be people gathering on the National Mall on November 14th. Please send a representative over to talk to these people, and if you can't answer the questions then and there, at least let us know when you will. And so we were there. We caravanned from around the country to the National Mall, and we had contracted with the staging company that stages most of the events, and they built this big stage. We had speakers, we had music, we had a live webcast of the entire event, and at 2 o'clock, the crowd parted to make room for the representatives. It was very dramatic. I mean, we knew they weren't coming, but this was all part of building the record. And so we had a live webcast, the crowd parted to make room for these people to come down, and of course nobody showed, and they just ignored those petitions for redress of grievances. Prepared in the most humble terms, rationally, intelligently, and professionally well-crafted petitions for redress of grievances. Most recently, on June 30th of 2008, every single member of that Congress and the President, every member of Congress, House and Senate, were served again with these and the ones that are coming up on the next page by constituents. So Ron Paul's constituents, Bernie Sanders' constituents, served every member of Congress and the Senate on June 30th with 7 petitions for redress of grievances, asking them to answer these questions. So we've been repeatedly petitioning over these violations of the Constitution. Obviously, the USA Patriot Act violates the privacy clauses. It's a violation of your right to privacy to have the government come into your home, copy your hard drive, and leave without ever telling you they were there. That's authorized by the Patriot Act and other things like that. We have a developing police state, and the Patriot Act is just part of those acts that have been passed since 9/11. And the income tax violates the direct unapportioned tax on labor, violates the tax clauses. We've also prepared an extensive petition for redress of grievances regarding immigration. This is what we have been doing over the years. We saw the intensity of this immigration issue. Regardless of your feelings about immigrants and illegal immigrants, there is the law. We don't get involved in political questions. These issues that we get involved with are not public policy questions. They're issues of the Constitution. Let me explain. I know there was a massive effort to get the Congress not to grant amnesty. And there was, on the other side, there were a whole lot of people trying to pressure Congress to grant amnesty. And so people were treating the issue of illegal immigration as a political question for the give and take of society. And of course, those in Congress, were listening to both sides and weighing, the costs and so forth and deciding what to do, as though this were a political question. We don't get involved in political questions. If this was only a political question, we would not have gotten involved in the immigration issue. We get involved only in issues of governance, violations of the Constitution. So you'd have to be brain dead not to have known about the emotion of this immigration issue over the last few years. And so we couldn't help but notice it, of course. And so we immediately look to the Constitution and we say, what is the constitutional issue here, if any? And what we found was this. In Article 2 of the Constitution, the article that deals with the powers of the President, not only is he required to take an oath to uphold the Constitution, but it says the President will faithfully execute the laws. Well, there have been laws on the books for a long time dealing with illegal immigrants and immigration and naturalization. Those laws are not being enforced. Neither party wants to offend the Latino vote, so they don't enforce the laws. Fine. You don't like the laws, take them off. But we are a nation under law. Those laws will be enforced. They are meant to be enforced. The President is the chief law enforcement official of the land. And so we prepared a petition for redress of grievances regarding the President's failure to faithfully execute the laws. Obviously, as I mentioned, there's no authority in the Constitution to develop a North American Union. The federal gun control laws are unconstitutional. There's a petition for redress of grievances regarding the violation of the Second Amendment, but also it is the absence of well-regulated state militias is unconstitutional. The Constitution requires them. It says that they are absolutely essential for the security of a free state. And so the absence of those is purely unconstitutional. Edwin Vieira. Anybody here not know who Edwin Vieira is? Don't be bashful, just raise your hand. Okay. You know who Meredith Vieira is from the Today Show? She's on every morning with Matt Lauer on the Today Show. Okay. This is her brother. Those siblings are each of them, highly accomplished. Edwin Vieira, 4 degrees from Harvard, argued 3 and won 3 cases at the Supreme Court. And then he lost the Minnesota versus Knight case. But he learned how political and corrupt the judiciary is during his career, and he decided he didn't want any more of that, and not to practice law anymore. Instead, he became curious and interested in our monetary system. And he went to work on this extensively, reviewing the constitutionality of the Federal Reserve. And his most recent work on that, he finished in 2004. It is pieces of 8. It's 2 large volumes. He is the foremost money expert in America as a result of that. But in doing that work, this is the way he thinks. In doing that work on the Federal Reserve, he saw what is now happening. He foresaw this. He said to himself, given this debt